Spine surgery is not just about what happens in the operating theatre, it's also about what happens in your body long after you go home. Especially in cases where spinal fusion is done, your recovery isn't just about wound healing or reducing pain. It's about whether or not the bones in your spine actually fuse together permanently and safely. This process is called bone healing and is one of the most critical steps in your recovery journey. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what spinal fusion actually means, how the bone graft heals over time, what kind of graft materials are available, what helps fusion, and what can delay or prevent it, and finally, what it means if healing doesn't go as planned. Let's break it down step by step so that you as a patient have complete clarity on what's happening inside your spine even months after surgery. Spinal fusion is a surgical procedure where two or more vertebrae are permanently joined together. We perform this when there is instability in the spine, there is a slipped vertebra, that is spondylolisthesis, there is severe disc degeneration causing pain because of instability, or when a motion at spinal segment causes pain or nerve compression, when there is a deformity. Now, fusion doesn't happen just because we insert screws or rods. Those are stabilizers, like scaffolds. The actual healing comes from bone growth. A bone graft is placed in the area we want to fuse, and over time, your body grows new bone around it. This bridges the two vertebrae together permanently. Think of it like welding two metal pieces, but using your body's natural healing power. There are different types of grafts we use during spinal fusion. Autograft, this is your own bone, the same bone which is cut to free the nerve. So this is called local bone. The pros are, it has highest success rate. It's very biologically compatible. Cons are, in some cases, we need additional bone for which we harvest from the pelvis. In such a situation, there is an additional surgical time and there is minor pain at the graft site at the pelvis. Next option is an allograft. This is a donor bone cleaned and sterilized from a tissue bank. It's common in India too to use this. It is safe when sourced from accredited centers. The advantage is there is no additional incision needed. Then comes the synthetic grafts. These are lab-made materials like calcium phosphate or bioactive glasses. These are often combined with growth factors or used to augment natural bone. The choice depends on your case, age, bone quality, amount of graft that is required, medical history, and the surgical plan. Bone grafts are just one part of achieving spinal fusion. The other critical components are implants like screws, rods, and cages. So what do? These implants act as the initial support system. They stabilize the spine immediately after surgery. They hold everything in place while the bone graft heals and fuses. Think of them as a scaffolding that supports the structure until the fusion becomes solid. Over time, the bone graft matures and creates a solid bridge between the vertebrae. That's what gives you long-term stability. So while the bone fusion provides permanence, the implants provide the essential early support. It's a team effort and both parts are crucial to your recovery. Bone healing after spinal fusion doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow biological process. And here's what typically happens. The first month post-surgery, the graft is still in its early phase. The area is stable thanks to rods and screws, but no solid fusion yet. Pain and mobility improve, but activity restrictions are crucial. At 3 months mark post-surgery, this is when we start seeing early signs of bone healing on X-rays or CT. The graft starts integrating with the surrounding bone. The patients feel more stronger, but still need to avoid twisting, bending, or lifting and ground level activities. At 6 months mark and beyond, most fusions begin to show clear evidence of union. In many cases, full fusion can take 9 to 12 months to consolidate. Activity levels gradually increase, but heavy lifting or high impact movements may still be restricted. Fusion is invisible to the eye, which is why scans and follow-up reviews are critical. Now let's talk about what affects bone healing. These are real, evidence-based risks that patients must understand and act on. Most importantly, poor compliance with post-operative advice, not following instructions on posture, limitation of activity, restrictions or medication, skipping physiotherapy or starting movements too early, ignoring follow-ups or not taking supplements as advised. Fusion is not just what the surgeon does, it's also what the patient commits to. Smoking. Nicotine is one of the biggest enemies of bone healing. It reduces blood supply and slows down bone growth. Even passive smoking can affect outcomes. Diabetes. Poor sugar control reduces healing capacity. We work closely with physicians medications to manage glucose levels before and after surgery. Another relevant point is osteoporosis. Low bone density makes it harder for screws to hold and for grafts to fuse. We often give bone strengthening medications pre-op and post-op based on our QCT results. Vitamin D and calcium deficiency are extremely common in India, especially among women, so supplements are routinely given. Poor nutrition, very important. Lack of adequate proteins or nutrients slows down healing. A balanced diet and supplements plays a key role in fusion. Remember, fusion is part biology, part behavior. Your body needs your cooperation. In rare cases, even after a well-done surgery, the bones may not fuse completely. This is called non-union or pseudarthrosis. What are the signs? Pain that doesn't improve or comes back after 3 to 6 months or later. Movement or instability seen on dynamic x-rays. Hardware loosening on imaging. Delayed return to normal function. Does it mean repeat surgery? Not always. Sometimes the lack of fusion is due to background reasons like poor nutrition, smoking, or metabolic issues. In such cases, we start with strict adherence to post-operative advice, calcium and vitamin D supplementation, lifestyle modification, and targeted medications to promote healing. But if the patient is still symptomatic despite every measure and there is evidence of movement or nerve pressure, a revision fusion surgery or bone graft reinforcement may be necessary. Remember, non-union is rare when the right technique is used and when both surgeon and patients follow the recovery protocol diligently. Here's the truth. You may feel fine after a few weeks of spinal fusion, but inside your body, the bone is still forming, still maturing, still stabilizing. Fusion success depends on surgical technique, the right graft material, patient's biology, and patient's adherence to post-operative protocol. That's why, in our practice, we don't just operate and forget. We follow a structured healing roadmap built on experience and backed by our own surgical checklist approach, which has reduced fusion failure rates and improved long-term outcomes. When it comes to spinal fusion, healing doesn't end when the stitches come out. In fact, it begins then. If this helped you understand what happens after fusion surgery, please like, share and subscribe. It helps us spread awareness and support others who are navigating the same journey. And if you are recovering from spine surgery, remember, healing is a partnership between the surgeon, patient and time. Thank you for watching.